uh-oh, snap election, which means everyone's just become a politician again. But is that really such a bad thing? Hello, I'm Hemp, how you all doing? This is just a video on why I think politics are important and why I think it's important to discuss politics, whether it's on social media, whether it's with your friends or whether it's with your family. And you know, my journey, how I got interested in the first place, because I never used to be. Like, I used to be the most anti-political person there was, you know. I like to think I'm an anarchist, but obviously, no, that's not true. But yeah, so this is my journey into politics and why I think it's important. Like I just said, I used to be the kind of guy that was so super duper ultra liberal and mentally kind of just fucked up, really, to put it bluntly, that I thought politics was irrelevant. That I'd somehow transcended their profiteering and warmongering ways. You know what I mean? Like, man, left or right wing, man, it's all still part of the same bird. And all the kind of anti-political cliches you kind of hear. You know, I just thought it was just so base, it was just so obvious and corrupt that it wasn't even worth bothering with. I went full hippie, and as I've learned, you never go full hippie. And I know I'm going to be unpopular for this next bit as well, but frankly, I don't give a damn. It was while I used to watch The Trues, hosted by Russell Brand, a guy who I look up to, immensely. And I used to thought, you know, he shared my views of politics being a farce. Well, on this day, he came on this show and he started talking about the interview or meeting he had had with the somewhat unheard of at this time Labour Minister Jeremy Corbyn. And Russell Brand switched his view. He started saying, I was wrong, vote Labour, this guy's a genuine politician who wants real change. You know, something me as a hippie and pretty much every cynical person in the world believes to be a lie, that there are no decent politicians in the world. And I was actually gutted that Russell had sold out his views so quickly and thought of him like as a bit of another endorsing celebrity, political cash cow kind of deal, until I started looking into Corbyn. And after a bit of research into him and the American Democrat Bernie Sanders, I began to see politics in a completely different light, and this is where my viewpoint started changing. Yes, I would still say that 90% of politicians are out there to line their own pockets and further their own agendas and ambitions. However, there is that rare 10% that get into it to help their constituents, their peers, and to just generally make the world a fairer, safer, and all round a better place to live. And it's on behalf of people that are just trying to get by with their everyday life. You know, there are these rare cases. Dennis Skinner's another one of politicians that, yeah, they make good money because they're in politics or whatever, but they're in it for the working class, and they're in it for your family, and they're in it for the working people. So, but it comes to a point where we've become so disillusioned by the 90% of dishonest politicians and dishonest political kind of activities that it's become so much harder to see these real people, these real 10% of politicians, without that political cynicism that we've all kind of picked up on. Like, do you know what I mean? We'll always still be like, yeah, but they're still just a politician. And it just seems to have engulfed this era of time and the generations that are coming up. And it's understandable, with the amount of misinformation around. People don't even know what to believe anymore. They don't even believe their own eyes or ears. Like, they can see something in front of them, like this Facebook killing, and they won't know whether to believe it or not. They don't even know if it's legitimate. That's how much misinformation and fake news has been spread around, you know, and it gets harder to see through it all. But when that happens, people start to then fall back on taglines, recycled taglines from daily tabloids and corporate media. And believe it or not, you know, these tabloids, these people have a reason to be feeding you with these opinions for you to then fall back onto. And, you know, they've got agendas to manipulate entire populations, really, in a political capacity. And one example of this, now this is going to go on a bit of a tangent and it's going to involve Syria and things, but I will cycle it round to how it affects us in the UK, you know, voting for political parties or whatever. For example, you got Rupert Murdoch, the owner of Sky News, one of the most powerful men in the world. You got Dick Cheney, who was the former vice president. James Woolsey, who was a former CIA director. Larry Summers, who was the former head of the US Treasury. These incredibly powerful people, and they all make up the Strategic Advisory Board to a company called Genie Energy. Now, Genie Energy is a shale oil company based in America, but they have very strong ties and subsidiary companies in Israel as well. So, what this gets into and how it's involved in Syria is this. What's in Syria? Oil. And this energy company, Genie, they want this oil and other associated resources, as every company does, so much to the point that it's fortified the Golan Heights. Now, if you don't know what the Golan Heights is, the Golan Heights was a piece of land that was took over by Israel. It used to be in Syria. It was Syrian land. And then Israel took it over and started fortifying it. It's still considered, a big debate, a big debacle, really. The UN are still like, that's not your land, give it back. But so they didn't have permission to drill for oil or resources by the Syrian government, because the Syrian government were obviously saying this is still our land. Now, what's one way to keep the Syrian government distracted or to almost make it irrelevant? How about by destabilising the country? And how do you do that? Maybe by dropping bombs on Syria to fight Islamic extremists, even though the Syrian government themselves are already taking steps to battle the radicals. Apparently, bombing innocent and terrorists alike seems to be the answer, although in the end, it just, creates more extremism. But ever since that bombing started, the country's been in turmoil and disarray, with the government having to focus all their energies on simply surviving as their infrastructure's just casually wiped out from the US, from us in the UK, Russia and Israel alike. And now, guess who's free to just start drilling in the Golan Heights? Because Israel have given permission, not Syria, because they're too busy caught up in the bombing. That's right, it's Genie Energy. Genie Energy have now got this land, they fortified it, they actually consider it a strategic prize. Do you know what I mean? And like I say, you got to remember who was on the Strategic Advisory Board for Genie Energy. And I also think that's an important factor, is that it's called the Strategic Advisory Board, And you had the former CIA director, you got the former head of the US Treasury, you've got Rupert Murdoch, the owner of Sky News. Do you know what I mean? He runs, the News Corporation, I should say, which obviously has Sky News, Fox News, The Sun, The Times, and just many, many more all around the world. Now, why on earth would these publications be attacking a politician, in this case, namely Jeremy Corbyn, for trying to end the war in Syria? Does it not strike you as obvious? Is there no correlation there? Can you not see how the evidence kind of ties together? And people might be going, oh, where's your tinfoil hat, hemp? Where's your tinfoil hat conspiracy theory? It's not. The solid facts that can be checked up on in 5 minutes or less on your smartphone. But, you more than likely won't, is the sad state of affairs, I'm afraid. And, politics is challenging. It is hard to understand. There is a lot of cloak and dagger, backstabbing and all this going on, what I've just mentioned. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to understand it. Like, people will try and sound cool by not caring about politics, as I did once, and try to squash the debate before it even starts, simply for the reason they've got no real opinion of their own, and they don't want to be pulled up on it. It's embarrassing for them, just like when you're talking about a film or TV series they haven't seen. People get defensive and they'll fall back onto opinions that were formulated for them by people that have vested interest in seeing certain agendas carried out. And in the case of Syria, and the bombing of Syria, it's in seeing wars continue, letting innocent people die, all in the name of gaining a strategic prize or a strategic piece of land that can gain a certain company a lot of money. So despite what the media or majority of the population say, your input into politics does matter. Talking about politics on social media is important, because the more people realise the stance they have on immigrants or terrorists, was actually created to manufacture consent for war crimes and atrocities and for land grabs, the more the corporate fat cats lose their power, the more the power is returned to you. So to say that people like Corbyn, Sanders or Dennis Skinner are the same as every other politician, when they're quite clearly battling a great level of ignorance and or just straight up evil and maliciousness, it doesn't make sense to me. Because to me, the reason why these politicians are being attacked by mainstream media seems obvious, but that's only because I've intook the information I've intook. And for the other people that think A, we should just bomb the extremists, or B, we should take arms against the government in a violent revolution and uprising, sounds brilliant. I used to think that sounded brilliant. Well done. You're now a terrorist. You're now the exact thing which, you're supposedly so against. How can we claim to be the peak of civilization when our answer always falls back to violence and the manipulation of entire nations and even continents, whole continents being duped? But don't get me wrong, I know I come across as a real left-wing kind of hippie, lefty loony, bloody Corbynite, all that. I've heard it all. I appreciate it. I do get that there is a regressive left wing. I'm not somebody who's like, it's either left or right, there is a regressive left wing at the moment, which are basically people that use social justice and equality as a reason to spread their own form of venom and hate. You know what I mean? They're using good causes to be just as dickish as the people that they're once again supposedly battling against. As I said, fighting extremism with extremism. Two wrongs don't make a right. An eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. Every cliche under the sun that says it's wrong to battle violence with violence. Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, especially when it comes to domestic politics, whether you're in the UK or US, it's not about who's right or wrong, who's right or left, rather. It's not about which party wins and shoving it in the other person's face. Politics, to me, simply means doing your part in society to make the world a better place in any way you can. Gandhi once said, saying you're not interested in politics is like a drowning man saying he's not interested in water. It surrounds us. It defines our reality on a daily basis. And to disregard it or to be indifferent to it is at the best just, a bit childish or ignorant. But at the worst, it's dangerous and it costs thousands of lives. Anyway, that's why politics is important to me. And that's why I made this video. It's just a case of saying, don't let people put down your political views as long as you're formulating them and you're doing the required research, and engage, I believe. I think just blindly looking past it and burying your head in the sand for an easy life so that you don't offend people, do you know what I mean? Imagine if Martin Luther King did that, or imagine if, as I said, but Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn were fighting for civil rights in the 60s. Civil rights movements are politics. So you can say you're against politics as much as you want, but politics are what have made the world a little bit better for people. Maybe not us, like me, fit in the kind of, white male demographic. I've had things quite easy. But it has made lives better for people. But as I said, there is a regressive left that take that too far. Don't get me misunderstood on that. Anyway, I'm going to cut this video short. Thanks for listening if you've stayed through to the end. And I might have gone on a couple of tangents, but that's why politics is important to me, because despite what we may think, there is that 10% that are doing their best for us, and we got to do what we can to support them and hopefully change the world. And the more of an interest we take in it all, the more in control of our own lives we'll feel, the more input we'll be having on other people's lives, and hopefully to make a positive contribution to the world around us. Anyway, I want to know what you think. Let me know what you think in the comments below, about some of the politicians I've mentioned, Corbyn, Sanders. Let me know what you think about the thing in Syria with the Genie Energy Company, whether you think I'm crazy or whether you've researched it yourself and there's some established facts. Anyway, look after yourselves. Peace, respect and harmony. I've been Hemp. Peace.